Seasoning a frozen steak? Defrosting a steak too quickly? Too slowly? Keep watching to find out what the biggest mistakes everyone makes with frozen steaks are and what to do instead. If you freeze top-quality steaks, chances are they're going to change color from a bright, appetizing red to a gray or brown color, and that's okay. While studies have shown that discoloration is off-putting to consumers, with 15% of beef discounted due to color change alone, this change is actually perfectly safe. According to Science of Cooking, when meat is vacuum-packed close to the time of processing, oxygen molecules are pulled away from the surface of the meat, which turns its surface a browner color. So while discoloration at the retail level contributes to significant food waste and economic loss, seeing a slightly off color to your frozen meat definitely does not mean it should be trashed. Indeed, Science of Cooking notes, cutting it open will reveal that this discoloration has only happened at the surface level, nothing to fear. Of course, you should never eat meat that's gone off or is spoiled, but this, according to myth crushers, is better recognized not by color but by texture. In addition to its odor, meat that has gone off can be recognized by the tacky sheen that forms on the surface. In this case, of course, you should dispose of the meat without consuming it. If you grew up watching your mom put frozen food on the counter first thing in the morning so that it thawed in time for dinner, you may be tempted to treat your steaks the same way. But the truth is that if your steaks are frozen sous vide, you don't actually have to defrost them at all. Sip by Go highlights a great method for cooking frozen steaks by first thawing them in a sous vide bath for 60 minutes. The result is improved texture over defrosting in the fridge or on the countertop, which is more dangerous and should be avoided, according to the USDA. Plus, it means you don't have to decide what you're having for dinner before you've even had breakfast. Cook the Story, meanwhile, notes that you can actually begin cooking your steaks without defrosting them at all. Simply sear the frozen steaks in very hot oil and then finish them in the oven. They'll cook all the way through, no defrosting needed. If you're cooking your steaks right from frozen, you may find that it changes the normal order of your cooking method. Notably, it means that you're going to want to season your steaks after you begin cooking them. Much has been written about the perfect time to season steaks, with some like Serious Eats claiming that the best time is about 40 minutes before cooking, and others like the Los Angeles Times claiming that it's best to season right before cooking, or better yet, when the steak is already in the pan. But when it comes to cooking a steak from frozen, you want to season after the sear, according to Epicurious. This, of course, makes sense when you think about it. Seasoning will not adhere to the dry, hard surface of an unthawed steak. For Epicurious, then, the best course of action is to sear, then season, then finish your steaks in the oven. The result will be a perfectly seasoned surface and a tender, wonderfully cooked steak.
Ignorance is bliss.
In most cases, when cooking meat, whether frozen or fresh, you sear the meat first and finish cooking it at a lower temperature, in the oven, for example, or in a liquid as for a braise. However, many proponents of frozen steak prefer the reverse sear method, and it's a great technique to try at home. For Serious Eats, the reverse sear method affords quite a few advantages over a more typical steak cooking order. Not only is reverse searing less of a time crunch, as it affords more flexibility in cooking time, but it paves the way for not only a browner crust, but also a more tender center. And since frozen beef is often starting out colder in the center, it's the ideal insurance policy for even cooking throughout. To reverse sear steak, you first cook it through in the oven, only searing the crust just before serving. It takes a bit longer than more traditional cooking methods, but you'll soon see it's worth it. If you do decide to defrost your frozen steak and cook it in a more traditional way, there's no problem at all. Except that if you defrost it too quickly, you run the risk of having negative effects on the texture of your steak, or even making it dangerous to consume. There are loads of different ways to defrost meat, from the countertop to the microwave to a sink full of hot water. But not all of these methods are advisable. The USDA recommends thawing meat in the fridge whenever possible, as this method is the best from a food safety perspective. Of course, thawing meat in the fridge is also the slowest method of defrosting. According to Steak School, depending on the size of your piece of meat, it could take a full day or more to defrost safely in the fridge, but it's worth it to reduce the risk of bacterial contamination. In a pinch, you can also defrost in cold water, which will reduce the thawing time considerably to a few hours. The USDA notes, however, that this method carries a higher risk of bacterial contamination, and it is quite a bit more hands-on. Best to plan ahead and use the fridge. We all know how it goes. You had your eye on a lovely steak for dinner, but something else came up, and now you're stuck with a defrosted piece of meat you've got to eat fast. Or do you? Myths of the health hazards of refreezing beef have been greatly exaggerated. But if you do want to refreeze previously frozen meat, there are a few safety protocols to follow to reduce the risk of foodborne illness. According to Kansas City Steaks, it's safe to refreeze steak, and for that matter other meat, if it has been defrosted at fridge temperature and has never reached room temperature, or at least not for more than 2 hours. The USDA adds that while there may be moisture loss when refreezing previously frozen meat, meaning a drier steak when you finally do dig in, from a food safety perspective, it is indeed fine to refreeze previously frozen food, whether still raw or cooked, if the food was thawed in the fridge. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more MASH videos about your favorite foods are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.